What's going on, everybody? It's Dan, Moonshine, back with another video. Hope everyone's having a good one. I'm doing okay. I can't complain. Wouldn't tell you, wouldn't even bother even if I had issues or anything like that. But all's well. I don't really have a whole hell of a lot as far as like mindless prattle or stories or anything like that. Nothing too crazy. And as I'm about to say that, then I do have a actually kind of a wild story. So my job. I try not to get into it too much, but it is it's a unique unique occupation, unique business, and we tend to occasionally we get what I refer to as aliens crash landing near our business. I think they see all the blinking lights and whatnot, and they decide to come in and visit. They see all the people, and they decide to come in and do whatever interstellar observations that they're doing, and they come into our store. So I get a call. I think it was, I want to say last Thursday, and apparently what had happened is what I'm going to presume is some street person walked in off the street, wandered in the store. He was muttering some bull crap, acting crazy and whatnot, and nobody had the good sense to let their let their natural instincts flow and start keeping an eye on this guy, potentially getting ready to call somebody to have him removed. Whatever the case was, long story short, turns out he ended up stealing something, ended up stealing a magazine, because we are a business that still sells magazines, and they're a popular. They're popular for people to steal because they're small, can go into, I'm not going to tell people how to steal, but people steal them a lot of the times. So anyhow, the staff is looking back, trying to figure out exactly what it was that triggered the security alarm. And in the process of seeing that, they see the dude been there for an hour, and he apparently was pleasuring himself down one of our aisles for the better part of an hour. And so a lot of people got in trouble for this, staff wise. Nobody got fired or suspended or anything, but a lot of people got a stern talking to that. Hey, you can't let that happen. I don't know, me being me, I probably would have noticed something was off about the dude and kept an eye on him. Even when I don't walk the floor, I kind of keep an eye on the surveillance system because I have a television where I work in my work area, and like I said, I'm the manager of the place. I don't know if I mentioned that. I've been there for 25 years. I just celebrated 25 years. Been a manager for 15, and so I would probably have kept an eye on the guy. And it's just sometimes people they just take stuff for granted, and I think people don't have the instincts to assume the worst about people. And unfortunately, being in my job in the industry I work in and working there as long as I have, you kind of have to assume the worst in people. It's not, and I tell this to people all the time, it's not the healthiest philosophy to have, but it does, you have to have that little bit of a mental callus, if you will, because otherwise shit like this happens. So anyhow, long story short, that was uh that was pretty wild. But other than that, I don't have any more crazy stories or incidents or anything like that to tell you. I didn't run into any cool shows while doing my laundry. But what I did is I got in the mail this the latest album that we're reviewing today, Steel, Rust, and Disgust by Midnight. Everybody knows Midnight, very popular underground black and thrash band from Cleveland. And let me start off by saying this is how it begins, folks. The decline of every band. It happened with Metallica, 6 Feet Under. I think the Pet Shop Boys. They all start doing cover albums. First thing I thought is, oh boy, it's come to this. Poor, 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 poor lost, dear sweet Athanar. It's finally come to a cover album. So let's give him a moment of silence for the destruction of Midnight. Just bullshit. I couldn't keep that up, and Kind of hard to do my dry sense of humor where there's no one to bounce it off of. But anyhow, this is effectively a cover album. They did. There were 12 tracks, two of which were brand new singles. Cleveland Metal, which they put out a video. Midnight put out a video for it. They filmed it at the not the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Apparently, Athenar, he had a stage worn mask and jacket, and I don't know what else he had, what other memorabilia he had, but it was put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is super cool. You know, him being a Cleveland boy, I'm sure that that is very cool for him. You know, on top of being a musician and being recognized for your efforts in the arts and whatnot. So that was the first single, and then "Steel Rust and Disgust," the title track. That was another single that was on. It's on the second half of the album, the latter half of the album. And overall, the theme of this album is that uh, all the artists that Athenar did covers of, they were all Cleveland people or Cleveland adjacent, and that's what he did. So I'll try and go through this because I don't have them all memorized, but I will. I'll just go through little spec notes here. I'm just going to read this if you don't mind looking at the top of my head. Uh, so all the tracks were mastered by Noah Buchanan. They were at their engineer mixed at Mercenary Studios. The cover art that you're seeing right now that was done by William Lacey. Photos were done by David Brodsky, and with the exception of some guitar work on Cleveland Metal by Commander Vanek, everything was done by Athenar. He did all the instrumentation, all the vocals, and on the inside of the album, what you get is you get a lot of him explaining the bands and what they meant to him and what made him choose the covers that he did, the songs that he covered. The funniest of which was probably the covers of the cover of, I should say, the Electric Eel song "Agitated." He said that he tried to do a version of it that they would absolutely hate, which is very funny. You know, very amusing to me that you would go out of your way to piss off the band that you're trying to immortalize in song. But you know, he's I think he's got a pretty good sense of humor, and I can appreciate that. But the one thing he did say in the liner notes was that he wanted people to go out and seek out the original versions. And that's initially what I did. I went out because I wasn't familiar with a lot of the stuff, and I'll get into that in a second. But a lot of the stuff, some of the artists I did know, but not a huge. It's just stuff that I'm aware of, not stuff that I've really listened to. So I went and listened to a lot of the songs and try to compare them, or at least get a general idea, general knowledge of them before I listened to the Midnight album. So that's what I did. So let's kind of go through this. As far as my favorite songs, I would say probably Final Solution, which is that was Rocket from the Tombs. That was a really good cover. Um, and I'll just say if you're familiar with any of the artists, cool. If you're not familiar with them, go look them up yourself because I'm not going to waste your time going into the history and all this, that, and the other thing. I'll just make little notes here and there of some of the people that I am familiar with. But that was a really good song. Uh, I would say probably Child Eaters. That was a really good one. Rubber City Angels. That's a really fun song. Very much very very much. It's a song that you could see Midnight doing. You know, because they have that very punky black and punk speed metal sound, and there's certain punk songs that really fit into the style that Athenar incorporates into the music. So that one worked out really well. I would say that probably the one thing I was kind of surprised at, but I guess I shouldn't have been, was that, you know, sometimes people do covers and they'll incorporate little things here and there to it. But there's, for example, there's a part of Child Eaters where it's, I guess you'd call it the spoken word part of the song where Athenar has taken on the part where he's talking about the mother getting sick of having the child and thinking of all the ways to get rid of the kid because she wants to go out and party and whatnot, and she's gonna smother the kid with the Donald Duck pillow. I kind of figured that maybe he would update it for modern times, but he didn't. But I guess it doesn't really matter because Donald Duck is pretty much a universal thing that most people are aware of. But when they did do that, which was pretty funny, was Rock and Roll Fever, which is a David Allan Coe song. I'm not really familiar with much of David Allan Coe's songs. I've heard a few of them here and there. I know he's kind of a controversial figure. I know he was a bit of a rebel and bit of a criminal. That's actually that gets noted here in the liner notes where Athenar talks about he spent a lot of time in Cleveland jails, but he is from the Ohio area, so that's why he covered it. And Rock and Roll Fever is a really good song, very catchy. They it's kind of like some outlaw country I can really get into, and it's definitely something where if you're looking to broaden your horizons, or even try to come up with ways to come up, kind of get the creative juices flowing if you're a musician. That's the sort of stuff you can look into and really get like a different look, a different feel for melodies and stuff like that, different arrangements, different guitar tones and stuff like that. I think it's pretty good. Like, Leonard Skinner, I'd say Charlie Daniels Band. Who else could I think of? Just a lot of like I know a lot of metalheads don't like country, and I'm not a huge country fan myself, but when I grew up in a family that listened to a lot of old school country, so it's stuff that I was raised on. Lots of the cheesy late 70s, early 80s stuff like Dolly Parton and Oak Ridge Boys and Alabama and stuff like that. Ronnie Millsap, all that sort of stuff. But there is some really cool stuff. Like over time you listen to like there's a few Charlie Daniels songs that I can get into. Charlie Daniels bands, Charlie Daniels band songs I can get into. I'll spit that out. I apologize. But point being, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it was kind of cool because towards the tail end of the song, he's talking about how he's listening to Bathory and his girlfriend who's cheating on him is listening to Purple Rain, and then he mentions Motorhead. So that's kind of a cool little kind of updating it for the band, for the sound, for the vibe of the song. That was a pretty good one. And then I would say probably beyond that, Third Generation Nation's good. That's a Dead Boys song. Again, I know who the Dead Boys are. I started listening to a little bit more of their stuff after I just recently I saw the movie CBGB, and that's got Alan Rickman in it. He plays Gilly, and it basically goes over the formation of CBGB and how it became such a monster club in New York City, became home to all sorts of amazing bands from the 70s and 80s. A lot of people cut their teeth in the club, and you get your Blondies and your Talking Heads, the Ramones, and the Dead Boys were one of those bands that were a very integral part of the legend that is CBGB's. And so I got listening to them a little bit, but not to the point where I recognized instantly that this was a Dead Boy song. But then I saw liner notes. I was like, oh, cool, and they did a really good job on it. I mean Athenar, and I imagine I know he's got like a extreme wealth of knowledge of all sorts of music, and I'm sure this is something that he's listened to his entire life, and yeah. But overall, and then there's two Electric Eel songs. There's a couple of bands that I guess he grew up on, or he grew up around these guys. Sinistrike, and the other one was Carrion's Keep. That's the name of the song, but the band itself is False Hope. Uh, I didn't find anything on Sinistrike, so I guess reading the liner notes, I guess that's a band of maybe they're a band that didn't make it, or they were just a local band that he was familiar with. But then there's a band called Kratos that they do a cover of Iron Beast. And yeah, and that's pretty much the album. I know I'm missing a couple, but it is what it is. So overall, you get a couple originals from Athenar. You get 10 covers. It's good. It's Midnight. It's their, I would pretty much, Midnight's got a very signature sound. They got a very signature style. Uh, you know what you're getting when you get a Midnight album. There's not going to be a bunch of bells and whistles and experimentation. They're not delving into synths. They're not starting to incorporate orchestras and choirs and things like that. You're not going to get like a freaking lute or a gosh damn what's the thing that the friggin' the thing with the wand, whatever the hell that is. I was going to call it the turmeric, but I know that's not it. The whatever the hell that is. A harpsichord. Let's go with that. You're not going to get a bunch of stuff like that. A theremin. Is that the name of the freaking thing? I think that's the name of it. But anyhow, so point being is you're not going to get a lot of experimentation from Athenar. It's just straight up black rock and roll, just the way your mother hates it. Old school Venom, old school Motorhead, lots of punk attitude, lots of catchy shake your booty riffs, lots of fun, lots of tongue in cheek humor, lots of just straight up raw nastiness and unrepentant blasphemy. That's the sort of stuff you get from Midnight. That's what makes them fun. That's what makes them a good band. Again, I've told the story before. Anytime I mention Midnight, as you can see, I'm a fan. If you didn't notice, I first saw them open up for Electric Wizard back in 2019. I had no idea who the hell they were, but they were ridiculously popular with the crowd, and I end up listening to them a lot more. My buddy who I went to the show, he hated them because he hates anything thrash or thrash adjacent. So he absolutely hated them. But I loved them. I loved the hell out of them. They did a fantastic job. And then I started digging into their discography and immediately became a fan and started picking up their stuff over the years. And yeah, they're now one of my favorite bands. They're one of my favorite live acts. I try to go see them anytime they come to town. I'm hoping that they'll come to town pretty soon, and yeah, we'll see. But I don't know what their tour schedule is. I don't know what plans are with the band. I don't know how busy Athenar and Vanek and everybody else who's involved with the band. I don't know how busy they are, but it would be cool to see them come to Florida again and then go check them out. But if you ever get a chance to go see them, I'm probably not telling anybody anything they don't already know, but go check out Midnight. They're a fantastic band. Go pick this up, Steel Rust and Disgust. It is available now on Metal Blade, if I am not mistaken. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Bob. And yeah, it's a killer one. If you're a fan of Midnight, you're not going to be disappointed by this. I couldn't keep up the charade too long. Yeah, it's not the end of Midnight. It's just they did a cover album, but it is kind of funny. You do have a couple of those bands. It seems like they started to slowly but surely go off the rails after the cover albums started coming out. And I honestly have no clue if the Pet Shop Boys have a cover album. I don't listen to Pet Shop Boys. I just pulled that out of my ass. But anyhow, so yeah, that's it. That's my cover. They're my cover. That's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope everyone has a good one. This is Dan for Moonshine talking. Hope you all enjoy this. And yeah, it's Memorial Day weekend, so I guess I'll say have a happy and safe Memorial Day weekend. Everybody take it easy, stay safe. If you're drinking, don't drive. If you're smoking, don't fly. If you're tripping, get an accountability buddy and just take it easy. And everybody, as always, stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal. Always tuck your chin upon impact. Don't forget to breathe. Everybody, take care. Have a good one once again. And I will catch you on the next video. Later.